All right, welcome to the Curriculum Committee meeting of the West Bend School District and School Board. It is August 15th at 4:30 p.m. and we will start with introductions. My name is Melanie Ehrgott. I'm a school board member.
Kelly Lane, school board member.
June Kruger, school board member.
And I'm Gwen Trueblood. I am the 9 days in new director of curriculum and instruction, and I'm so pleased to be here. And first dates are always the most special dates for me, so I will never forget you all. I am so pleased to be here. We have a lot of things to do this year, so this is our launch for the year, and I'd like to take a little time to tell you about the day that we had with our team, because they're all here today because we are all in, and I am so pleased to have you meet them, but we do have one member who will be coming shortly, so next month you'll see the last member of our team, Building Strong. So, Erin?
I'm Erin Post. I'm one of the program administrators for the Curriculum and Instruction Department.
I am Heather Isaacson, and today is my first day as a program administrator for the department, and I am excited to be here and I'm ready to get working.
I'm Tina Van Roo. I'm the District Data and Assessment Coordinator.
And we have Jane, of course. We'll never forget Jane Cobian. She's over there without the mic right now, but we cannot do anything without her, so here's our team.
Okay, so we will begin our agenda with the first item, which is the second step platform update, and that will be presented by Ms. Emily Melstrand, the Director of Student Services.
All right, well, welcome back, board members. Thank you for your time tonight, and I'm equally excited to have almost a full teaching and learning curriculum and instruction team, so this is pretty cool to see. I am here this evening to give an update on Second Step, which is the digital platform that was chosen as part of our social emotional learning curriculum. As you recall, the board approved our social emotional learning curriculum in the fall of 2021. And one of the commitments that we made at that time was that if there were any changes to our primary resource, and our primary resource is the Second Step digital tool, that we would bring those back to the board and report out and give updates so that you knew what changes were being made and so that our community also had that information. Just kind of a couple of little reminders about that. So the social emotional learning curriculum is posted on the district website, and that was board approved. The primary resource that was chosen for grades 4K through grade 8 is Second Step, and we use the digital resource. We have a communication plan that was developed and approved to go alongside of that curriculum, and that communication plan provides parents with kind of a preview of what's coming in terms of instruction, and then it also provides some at-home connection activities for families so that they can extend that learning if they choose to in the home environment. And there is an opportunity for all families to opt out. At this time every year, we start rolling out the implementation for the new school year, and we've started that process. And as we're starting that process, any updates that have been made to the digital tool are kind of coming at us at the same time. So we receive information usually mid to end July with those platform updates. And then we integrate anything that is substantial in terms of change into both the communication plan and into the tool that helps support teachers in their implementation of that plan. So I'm going to go over a couple of those updates. They were not substantial this year, and the other thing that I should mention, and this was true last year as well, Second Step has received information from many of their clients, and they're really trying to be responsive in terms of clarity and communication. So the changes that are made really come from feedback that's been given to the company from district users. And, oh, I guess I did have the date right in here. I thought I didn't update the date, but my goal today is just to share those updates. So what I'm actually gonna do is I'm gonna jump over to this document. And Melanie was a part of curriculum committee last year, so she probably recognizes this format, but June and Kelly, this might be new to you just in terms of the way that the information is presented. I'm not going to read over each one of these unit changes, but instead I'm going to try to give you kind of an overview of what the primary changes were. And then if you have any questions or anything, you certainly can throw those my way. This isn't an action item. It really is an item just for information and discussion. So a couple of the updates that were made, the teacher lesson plans have always been a part of the program. They're separated into units, but that was updated just to make information more user-friendly for teachers. The way that it's structured and indexed is a little bit easier. The content in those lesson plans were not modified. There is also, and really the primary thing is there's an option for teachers to move quickly throughout the lessons in preparation. So in the past, you actually had to almost go through the entire digital lesson, and now teachers can preview in advance of a lesson so that they're more prepared without actually having to do it in real time. There was a section added to the platform called morning announcements, and it's really an addendum or an optional support structure that's intended for teacher or for principals to use when they're doing morning announcements. And it's really integrating key learning objectives into that morning message. We're not implementing those because that wasn't a part of our initial board approved plan, but I wanted you to know that they're there, and those are not a part of the implementation plan. And then the format or the program also added some additional language translations just for families who are English language learners who are using a different language primarily in their home. In terms of some of the primary changes, at the elementary level, the changes were pretty minimal. They really focused, grade 1, there was an added video, and it really focused on promoting kindness. And I described that in this overview. Lesson 14 and lesson 15 have a 2-part video that was updated to just add some more kind of specificity around examples of kindness, and it integrated an opportunity for teachers not just to show the video, but the video actually stops midway and prompts the student learners to generate their own ideas about kindness. So pretty basic story about little kids who are going to a neighborhood party, and as they enter the party, they receive a balloon, and they ran out of balloons, and one of the students is left without a balloon, and another student steps in and says, oh, I'll give you mine. And then it prompts the teacher to stop the video, and the students in the class are able to enter other ideas on how to be kind. And then that extends into the next lesson, where there's 3 short video stories that illustrate a different problem and ask students to step in and provide potential solutions. And then there were some universal changes around the units or the lessons at the elementary level related to goal setting. And the primary difference was really looking at providing more scaffolds. So it embedded a couple of new visuals just to be able to show kind of the goal setting process or making a plan. So like you can see under Unit 1, Lesson 2, making a plan, none of the content changed, but what they did as a program is they embedded a couple of visuals to support learners and being able to see, like, here are the different steps. You set a goal, here are your action steps, here are the materials you need, and here are the supports. So it was providing a visual scaffold for students. And that was embedded throughout the lessons related to goals. Also under my planning, where they actually eliminated a handout and they made the focus a little bit clearer by removing some of the extraneous content. And they also updated a couple of the images. The middle school changes had a couple of themes. There was not any significant change to content within the lessons. The instructional targets did not change. But what I noticed in their communication was that they were really seeking to update a couple of examples to make them more middle school relevant. And they made a couple language changes. So for example, there is a lesson that teaches about retaliation, you know, the idea of if it's in the bullying lesson, and they used the language originally not to retaliate. And they determined that that language might be a little bit complex for some student learners, and they changed that to revenge. So some clarity around language. They took out a couple of statements that could have been perceived as sarcastic. There was an example where a student said, in response to a negative experience with a friend, you know, some friends you are, and they changed that to you're a bad friend, just looking at clarity of language. They took out a couple of scenarios that they felt might be not very familiar to 6th and 7th and 8th graders. For example, I guess Frisbee golf might not be something that's super familiar to kids in general. They changed that to soccer. The theme and the story didn't change in terms of content, but they changed the sport. And then they did the same thing in a different lesson where they used the term open mic, and they moved that to, they actually just took out the idea open mic and they called it a poetry slam or something of that sort, feeling like that might be a little bit complex. The other thing that was noted across those middle school lessons was the idea that they were adding some clarity in terms of visual scaffolds. So in the previous edition on certain lessons, they maybe didn't have a visual to support the learning, for example, around the goal development. And in this revision, they added some supports just to help kids be able to visualize those steps. And the other change that they made was they actually changed a couple visuals for clarity, silly and small, but you know, it can be confusing for kids. They changed some emojis that weren't super clear in terms of being able to read the intent of the expression and made them more clear. So those were the primary changes. And I didn't go through each of those lessons, but I was hopeful that you had the opportunity to view those and look at those. I don't know if you have any questions specific about the changes. Okay. And then, you know, the other thing that I just wanted to validate is, as was done last year, you know, we really looked at those changes in the curriculum, the tool, and then we aligned that to make sure, you know, okay, are any of these changes going to impact the communication that teachers follow? Because we have a pretty scripted teacher narrative. So we looked through to see, okay, what changes need to be made. Really the only changes related to when they removed a handout. I went back in and made sure teachers knew that handout doesn't exist anymore. We deleted that from that record. And then we did the same with the family communication. And because they weren't changing learning targets, it didn't substantially change the communication structure, but I want you to know that that's something we're committed to annually. We updated the opt-out form. All of that was communicated to our building principals, so they have that, you know, renewed opportunity to look at all of the required steps. So those are communicated out to families. Families will have the information about how to opt out if that's the choice that they make, and principals will provide that opportunity. And that is it.
All right, well, thank you so much for your presentation. It seems like most of the changes are pretty benign, and it's just kind of a procedural piece here. So
absolutely, but it was a part of our guarantee, and I think it's important that we do that annually. But I appreciate that. I agree, they were pretty benign.
All right, well, thank
All
you
right.
very much.
Should I close out of this? Quinn, you're not presenting from here. Okay, so I can close down.
Okay, all right, then I'll turn it over to Quinn Trueblood.
Thank you. So as our team is forming, it's always so important to have clear direction, and it's very clear to me that we're going to be able to achieve what we seek to do with holding three things, or a vision that we have in mind for not only our team, but also for the entire district. And so that's what we're building right now, and we are committing to three things explicitly. We are looking at visibility as a high priority for our team and bringing things out there to support the staff and the students and the parents. But also, necessarily, we have to look at clarity. And so providing visibility and also being more clear about what it is that is happening around the district and also in the classrooms. And lastly, necessarily, we're going to have to look at focus, because my few days in the districts has shown me that you have been all very ambitious and you have done many things with the right purpose and intention. And right now, it's a unique time to kind of assess that all. And that's, I think, something that I can bring to the table, and with this team, create that visibility for you and also provide that clarity that is necessary if we're going to make gains on student achievement and student experience. And also, what we choose to focus on sometimes is up to us and sometimes it's not. And so that's the thing that we're going to be working on this year for sure. Certainly the next item moving a little bit lower is going to be the Literacy Bill, Act 20. And so we'll walk through that a little bit more in terms of where we think we can move with that bill. That's the thing that we have to do. And I actually welcome that. How it came to be doesn't matter, but that it's here, I think the district can leverage that. The priorities for our department are going to be very clear at the onset here. We are right now on day one assessing where things are and identifying those building blocks for how curriculum and instruction can be fortified, guaranteed, and also we have this thing called viable curriculum, and that's really my obligation to build for the district. And I do believe it's here, but I want to make sure, I want to convince myself with our team that it is definitely here. In order to do that, we are spending a fair bit of time because there are many new players here and things have been fairly dynamic in the last 2 years in good ways and in fairly complex ways, what the roles and responsibilities are for each of our members and how we work in the system to reach every single classroom teacher, who then can reach every single student, who then can come home to their families and talk about what they're learning. So that's really the kind of arc of move and impact we want to have. Also, in that process, I think what's very doable and necessary is designing a service model. And that's going to be very helpful to the leaders in the district, because once we can define who's doing what, how we're going to do it, where people can go to get resources, that service model, I think, will actually leverage a lot of what I consider to be meaningful gains. And lastly, I think most importantly, and this has really been in queue for long enough, but I'm very excited to work with this team and the leadership team to launch the CNI district website. And what that website, actually Jane has been working on it for quite some time, but what that website will do is we believe that that will be an amazing access point for everyone to look into every classroom and look at curriculum maps, look at what students should be learning and able to do, but also eventually how well are they learning those things. And so that should be that access point. And you will see parent resources there. You will also see unit plans there. You'll also see, really how learning is done in the classroom. So I think that's a really exciting part. And honestly, when we get that launched, we'll probably have to go through some feedback loops and improve it, because really it's a platform that should be really usable for every stakeholder, for teachers, for parents, for students, for the community. So I do believe that if we do it well and build it right over time, every stakeholder will find it very, something that they go to. So I think that's called having value, right? good. And accountability for sure, but I'm excited to make sure that we can get that done in a very timely fashion. So I'd like to go to the next agenda item, which is actually the largest one, at least in the state of Wisconsin right now, which is really the Act 20, which is, there were 6 bills in that act, but the one that we're talking about today is the literacy bill. And I'm not sure how many people have been doing a deep read on it, but certainly our team is. And it's only as new as July. So we've had some time to look at a preliminary review, and what I can tell you right now is there are 2 things that are really important for all school districts, and certainly for West Bend, is that we are really having to pay attention to 2 very specific things under the law. One is that we apply the science of reading in our way of teaching reading, but also we are also looking at the 3rd grade proficiency levels. Really the guarantee is every student by the 3rd grade should be able to read at 3rd grade level. That is the hallmark or the gold star, and there's a lot of research, and it is holding true right now that that is a difference maker for life. If students can read by the 3rd grade, they have all these other opportunities that are available to them in society, you know, beyond high school, beyond employment. So it's really a very significant thing to note. So I do applaud the state and everybody who's wanting this for our children to put a law together that says that is our target. So what is West Bend doing about that? Well, certainly we have to navigate 3 very large sections of the district, and the first one is what we call universal instruction. That's where every student gets that instruction. That's the guarantee. We also have to navigate the second part, which is the intervention instruction, which is what happens when that universal or that everyday classroom instruction doesn't meet their needs so that they can make those learning gains. So we would have to look at how we're doing that more closely. And lastly, we have to look at the domain of assessment. How do we measure what kids know and are able to do? So those are things that haven't changed. It's just that the lens of the law is making us focus on very specific parts of those 3 domains. So what I can tell you for sure is this law is stating that by 2027 and 28, that's literally only 4 years from now. And I'd like to say that we can't really count this first year. This first year is going to be about building that Office of Literacy underneath the Department of Public Instruction. So there's a lot of infrastructure that has to happen through this office. And I do believe that by 2027 and 28, the law says that all of the elements of the law should be fully implemented. And there's many, many components. We'll be looking at discrete components as much as we can. But what's holding us back, as it is with every single school district, is that there are timelines and actions that really are out of our control, and they will be rolled out through the DPI. So there's a lot of people at the DPI are going to build this office and really do what they need to do to get us ready. But I can say for sure that I think by February, some clear confirmations will be coming out for what we need to do and what we need to really look for. So I do believe that February will be a time where we'll be thinking about things, but we won't be able to do anything and make decisions until about that time. So I'm excited for February to come, actually, because this hold still position is a little bit like exciting but also nervous. But I can tell you that if we're in the gates right now, I feel very confident that we will be able to navigate the priority items on the time run that the state has established, because we are not a district without resources that are viable. We have a lot of things. I think the challenge will be what will be those things, what will remain and what has to leave, and then how do we actually walk our staff through that, because they are no stranger to professional development. But what I do know for sure is they are wanting to be the staff who are in the trenches, they want to have the best resources, understand how to use them, and feel very confident and secure that they're using them with fidelity. And that is really how teachers, I believe, sing. You know, like this, there's the art of it, and there's the joy of it, and then there's the mechanics of it and the science of it. So we're gonna get the science and the mechanics of it given to us, and then what we'd like to do is make sure that our staff are really secure there so they can do the art and joy of it. And at the end of the day, we want to see 80% of our third graders really reaching proficiency by 27, 28. That is a very ambitious slope, but our team has talked about it at least just for one day only with Heather on board here. Heather is actually the literacy specialist on our team right now, so she will be actually bearing quite a load under this law. But I know she's prepared for it because she's done the body of this work in her prior district, so it's not new learning, it's really more systemic scaling. So I feel very confident to have you here for that. And certainly we have a lot of institutional knowledge from Tina and from Aaron and from Jane, and so I think the building blocks are there for us to, when the gates open in February, let's just say, we will be on our toes. The other thing I want to really mention also is that there is, at the end of the day, the bottom line, which is really, can we promote third graders into the fourth grade if they cannot meet proficiency? That will be debated for some time, but this law does talk about that. This law does make this an end game. And so our district will be going to the board and presenting at the right time a very clear review of the promotion policy. Okay? So that's kind of the end game, I believe. And I hope to stay very optimistic through this whole process. It is a lot to do in 3 years, but if we do the right things, I'm very confident that it will feel right, and we'll do it right, and we'll get the things, the outcomes that we're looking for, not necessarily what the state says is important, but I do believe that we would agree that that's very important. Okay? Let's see. I think that really kind of summarizes at least our team's larger thinking about how we're navigating through the 4 years. So I will come to you with more steps and more information so that it becomes more clear how we're going to get to 2027. But right now, I think the foundation that we're setting and how we're thinking about it, the approach to it, is making me feel confident.
That's great. I'm excited to see moving forward, all the changes. I know the literacy has been a big topic among, stakeholders in the community, and I'm sure among staff and stuff too. So just excited for that, and excited. You guys seem like you all work really well together and look like a happy team over there. So I'm excited to see where that goes.
We always say if we start strong, we can always end strong. So that's always the goal. Thank you. And the very last item that I'd like to go over is summer professional development. Remember, this is my first view, and it is well structured. I know that a lot has happened in the last 2 years to get us to this state, so I cannot lay any credit for this, but my initial review of this is that it's well structured. It is leaning towards ambitious. It's always on the edge of, can we do it? Can we do it? But I do believe that that position is actually both exciting and challenging. And so whoever built this, and I would have to say Aaron and Tina know more about this, but what I appreciate the most is that it is in clear view that we do want to give our staff the very best and most effective and outcomes-based professional development. So I'm very happy to see that when we look at the teachers throughout this summer, there's high voluntary enrollment. It means they want to learn, and they also want to have fun, because learning is fun and learning should be challenging. So I do believe that both are in play right now this week as we sit. We had a day or two already right in this building of staff working throughout the entire district. So you can see right now we have the numbers of attendees, and I have to tell you that if it's just by choice and it's August 14th or something like that, and we have over 100 staff members wanting to get their first dose of learning for the year, I'm impressed. So thank you to the PD team.
All right, that sounds good. Does anybody have any questions?
No, thank you. Great. First, lots of information, so this is good.
Thank you for all you're doing. It seems like you're bringing a lot of energy to the team, and I know they already have energy, but this is just a shot in the arm to get the clarity and the things you talked about, the vision and making it happen. It sounds really exciting, and I'm excited for you, and I'm happy you're here.
Thank you, and I have to tell you, the more times I say that, the more we believe it. We keep saying the same things and circling around what is it that we're doing, and every time we circle around, I think the feeling is that we can do it. And I think that is something that we want to sustain us, because for me, 4 years, including this year, is actually a very momentous walk. So I'd like to, more than walk though, I'd really like to cruise through some of it, yeah. So, and our team's gonna be ready, so thank you.
All right, well, thank you so much, everybody, for your presentations today, and we will go ahead and close here at 5 o'clock, right on the dot. So thank you so